In this last panel, the experts, 6 female experts that are with us, will talk about the role of collaboration or public and private partnerships in digital inclusion, PPP. They will talk about many of the questions that revolve around this topic, what is being done in the public sector, what can be done in the private sector, and what can we do together. So we need to know the current and future lines of collaboration, and collaboration is critical if we want to achieve the challenges, if we want to overcome the challenges. I'd like to welcome Paula Novo. I'd like to thank the opportunity you've given us to take part in this first international Inclusion Forum, the speaker says, and on my behalf and on behalf of the speakers, I am really grateful. Secondly, we have a concern. All the speakers in this last panel, we've been working in several aspects related to the topic, the title of this panel, the digital inclusion and the gender divide in the PPP, but we've realized that several aspects of our PowerPoints have already been talked about in previous panels. So we have changed a little bit what we wanted to say. So now the speakers will talk about, will put the emphasis on the aspects that have not been mentioned in previous panels. They will talk about their personal experience, etc. I think it's worth to say in this panel, in the PPP, I'd like to talk about PPP in Spain and 4 axes that are interrelated. And one of the axes is about digital inclusion and gender inclusion in the ICT industry. So within this digital agenda that has 4 axes are interrelated, and accessibility, literacy, and employability are the factors that will contribute to improving or worsening the role of women. From an institutional point of view, the speakers will talk about their contributions, most of them in the private sector, except for Concepción, who will talk about the public sector. I have a small introduction. Cristina Bentué is the first speaker. She has worked in the Middle East and has pursued a career in technological startups in the city of London and Barcelona. And she's an expert in cybersecurity and works at Continuum Security. Cristina is an activist in the field of women, also with the objective of empowering girls to reach high, to aim high in life. And then we have Esther Torres. She has a diploma in public management and a master's in employability by the ESIC and another master's degree from the Rey Juan Carlos University, and now is the marketing manager in Innotec. Silvia López is an expert in business development in ICT, in security companies, both for products and services. She has worked in many associations in this industry. She has multi-sectorial experience, and now she is an expert in business development in Innovate. Cynthia Wright is a principal cybersecurity engineer at MITRE. She has worked in the military and also in the private sector in the United States, and she will make reference to all the milestones and barriers and obstacles she's had to overcome in her personal life. And finally, Concepción Cordón is an IT engineer from the University of Malaga. She has a master's in cybersecurity, a PhD degree in cybersecurity. a master's degree from Deloitte, and several other courses. And now she works at EMASA, the water company in Malaga, and she has published many papers and studies. She also is a member of the faculty of many associations. So now I will give the floor to Cristina.
To start, I'd like to answer the key question, and is why women do not go for sciences, no? After having read a lot of reports by Microsoft and having done a lot of surveys to many faculties and schools, the main reason, I think, is because teenagers have a trend or have a tendency to choose studies that have a social impact, and they do not see the social impact in technologies. But however, technologies right now are everywhere, and the same way technologies should be everywhere as well and should invade everything. Now there is no such a conflict as I belong to sciences or I belong to humanistics or whatever. I have 2 degrees and 3 master courses in different fields, and I have founded a cybersecurity company. We have to convey this message that things do not exclude each other, and I can also, from my experience in humanistic studies, I can provide a lot of knowledge to cybersecurity. Internet of Things allows you to analyze what you need. You have to decide by yourself, communicates with you through an order, something that you need at that point. But for the artificial intelligence to come about, you need to replicate the functioning of the mind. And there is no better than a philosopher or a philologist to replicate the functioning of the mind, and then the machine to replicate it. There is a study by the Complutense University with the title Artificial Intelligence and Poetry. Everything invades everything. There is no separation anymore. And not everything is technology. Sorry, correction by a speaker. Not everything is technology in cybersecurity business. High management, for example, has also been mentioned now. We have to promote the presence of women everywhere. You need soft skills, of course. And for that, the woman is there. That will allow you to move from one department to another, to have a holistic view of things. From my company, I try to set up quotas because quotas force the system. I think we should transfer this system to the public sector. This may be a bit more uncomfortable. I like to know what a woman gives and inputs, what input she gives in a technical team. I'm sure she provides with a degree that is not there. We have the other standpoint that makes everything holistic. We have also talked about micro-chauvinisms, and we always have to be with open eyes, because anytime we blink eyes, well, something happens and we waste many years of struggle. My grandmother used to tell me, where are you going to study? To bring up kids, you do not need to study. My mom used to tell me to lay the table and serve my brothers, because I was a nice lady, but that is a sexist legacy. My generation is a privileged generation. I was born in the 80s. I chose my studies in the 90s, and that is something I could do. I do not want to blame the women of my family for the way they have wired my brain. but it is so much inside the DNA of the society that we have to. Well, my brother says you are going to be like an old feminist lady, because whatever else is some trait or slight point of chauvinism, I send a letter to the director of the paper, a letter to the director of this or that. But we have to be alert, because otherwise they will come on top of us. And I blame tradition, history, and a society that does not take this social responsibility. Also, I blame the businesses. We have to all get involved. To be always paying attention. There is an experiment they did at a university in America. I have to say it in English.
And they crash, and the father sadly dies. But the son just gets damaged, and he needs surgery, necesita cirugía. So they take him in an ambulance to the hospital. And in the hospital, he's there in the surgery table, en la tabla de operaciones. The surgeon enters with the scalpel, ready to operate, and the surgeon says, I can't operate, it's my son. ¿Qué pasa ahí? Y yo, toda lista.
I was run there, and I was very clever. Oh, because that is a gay couple. Why have you not thought that the surgeon is a woman, is the mother? Well, my hair really stand out, because I had not seen that. I had not seen the possibility, that the mother was the surgeon, because this is how we have been wired. I had to say it in English, because surgeon in English is a neutral term. It is hard to realize those things. Now you have to be there all the time, on the watch out, stopping the micro insults that we receive, so that our kids have a better life. Obviously, the sector of cybersecurity, STEM, are masculinized, and that results in a loop, because then it creates the symbol of the intruder, and the intruder is the woman that has no credibility. She feels she does not belong to the sector. The self-esteem is very low. There are no visible women. They do not inspire other people. And we have to break that circle, that vicious circle. Because they used to tell kids, draw power, and they used to draw a man with a tie, because the rules of the game are male. This is the thing that compensates with the other, collaborate with each other. For example, a strength with flexibility. I always imagine bamboo works as a scaffold in some areas in Asia, but then you can fold it very well without breaking. They do yin and yang. We need that in high management teams, because it is not the best thing you can do to get women and work with you in cybersecurity, because they have another input. It is the most intelligent thing to do, to pick up women to be part of your team, because it has been proved that companies work better if yin is next to the yang. And finally, introduce the initiative Spying Girls. As a company, we participate in different companies. The president in Madrid mentioned that girls up to 11 years of age, they are forces of nature. They can do it, everything, and they want to do everything. From 11 onwards, something happens, and then they have a very low self-esteem. That is where we want to work. That age group, one of the things we can do from the private company world is to work on these initiatives, that is to bring girls to the offices and to become female bosses for one day. It is part of the social responsibility or liability. This initiative has been working for 3 days in England. It was started by Emilia González and it has been very successful. General practice is to go to schools and pick up girls from 11 to 15, and they are role models. It is like a girls' day at the office. When we tried to implement it in Spain, the situation was that the education department does not allow it to do it only with girls because it is a segregating initiative. I thought it was very painful to say that, because you have to pick up all, boys and girls. And I said, well, we have not yet identified that this is a sector that faces social disadvantage. The same as when you give extra lessons to kids who do not master the language, for example. Why don't we strengthen and reinforce only girls? And then I realized that in the public sector, I don't know, there is a great part of society that still thinks that we have reached equality. And this reminds me of a politician, whose name I do not want to think of, who said, talking about equality, that we have to work for gender equality. They said, what else do you want? To have the nail polishing for free? And well, he continues doing politics. I would have fired him, really. Okay, so that's my story. Thank you. Thank you, Cristina. Now we'll give the floor to Esther. Well, firstly, thank you very much, and congratulations to INCIBE, firstly and foremost, for organizing the first forum focused on gender, and also giving visibility to women, the first forum in which women are so much present. I'd also like to thank them very much for having invited me to be here, representing my company, Innotec. It is a cybersecurity company of the group LNT. For those who do not know us, since 2002, we have been in the market. We are currently more than 300 professionals devoted to cybersecurity, 1,500 people together in the group. We are present in Spain and in 6 Latin American countries. It is very hard to reach this panel at 20 to 6 in the evening, where many things have already been said.
Bueno, uno de los primeros puntos que habíamos planteado era...
One of the first topics we were going to address what is being done from the public sector to promote digital inclusion. I thought it was important to highlight not some of the laws or norms published in terms of the digital divide, but yes, they have tried to promote ICTs, as it was the law on electronic signature, the one to have access, and then also another law that resulted in more cybersecurity. Those 2 laws, 2007, 2005, and then we had to wait until 2013 for the digital agenda to be drawn. That digital agenda, it seems that it's going to be updated very shortly, and it seems that 5 million of euro will be devoted or allocated to the digital agenda. So different measures to promote the digital sphere. But I'd also like to mention what we're doing from the private sector, my organization, and it has been mentioned. We are 1,500 people present in 6 countries in Latin America, and this means that geographically we're very much dispersed, and there is a wide variety of ages. Some people are closer to new technologies than others. One of the main pillars is that we have reached a collaboration agreement with Google to be world partner and promote the use of collaborative tools, Gmail, Google Drive, etc., creating digital identity. Weekly wallpapers are being set up. The armbands as well, like the one I am wearing, similar to the karate belts, for example, or judo belts. And as you increase your digital knowledge, then your armband moves to another color. Mine is still white. Collaborative developments, helping the members of the community. That is what we're doing internally, because we think that in order to be able to adopt measures outwards, first we have to adapt them internally. But it's important to highlight the external actions we are implementing to promote the use of technology and digital inclusion. I have highlighted here some of the actions. Talks, workshops, NGO collaborations. We are also attending fora to attract talent and then hire people in our organization. Very interesting agreement with the community of Madrid, through which some students, 16, 17 years of age, they have the possibility to come and get to know our organization, and so that they get to know the business reality face to face, so to speak. Because sometimes, well, at secondary school, these initiatives were not present. So everything that has been said, that the age between 11 and 15 is the most critical age group to decide the future of teenagers, then these kind of activities are very interesting, because what we do is to invite them to go and see all the departments, marketing, human resources, managed resources, hacking, all the services we provide, so that they get to know the business reality. I'd like to launch a positive message, if you allow me, to try to turn the tables round, so to speak. We would love to be in the city center having a glass of wine, but we're here, so we have to launch a positive message. Many of you may recognize or identify the people here in these pictures. This forum is great for men to take a picture with all the women here present. These pictures were taken at Elise 2014. Not all the women, that is, many more women were there than those in the pictures. And the truth is that I am very happy indeed to see that in less than 3 years, the presence of women at such a forum has been increased. I do not know whether that has been promoted by INCIBE so that we have greater visibility, or because the female rate is greater now in the sector. The barriers we have faced in our country, historical, are clear. Until 1910, women could not access to university studies. In 1929, it was when the first engineer got her degree in Spain. That marks a before and an after. This was a situation lived by men. Current figures, and I have taken these figures from a recent article. Those are the current figures. Currently, only 24% of women go for engineering, architecture studies, only 12% of women in computing studies, telecommunications, 2.6 men per woman. But not only the number of girls is important, the percentage of female professors is very low. Until 1964, there was no PhD professor at the University of Madrid. So these figures are really alarming. But as I said, we need a positive message. Let's see if this changes. Luckily, now today we are many more. What has changed from those pictures to date? Of course, experience and knowledge we are acquiring. Little by little, women are starting to occupy positions with greater responsibility. But we are lucky to work in ICTs and more specifically in cybersecurity, a sector that is constantly moving and changing, facing change. There are more and more challenges. There is greater innovation. Bottom line, there will be more opportunities. New technologies reduce gender divide, promote equality. It is more simple to raise awareness. And a coffee break, we were talking about that. When I talk about that balance, I am not saying that women have to ask for balance because we have to assume the responsibility of our kids. Now, balance has to be for everybody. We improve employability of women. Today, it has also been mentioned, we should be capable of eliminating psychosocial factors when accessing technical studies. I read a research study that is great, I recommend it to you, that talks about life pathways in technological world. This study focuses on service for girls who were studying technical studies, to know what they feel, how they feel being surrounded by men, where they identify differences, why they chose a technical professional career, because of the influence of the relatives, the parents, the friends, the boyfriend, I don't know, the meaning of studying technical subjects. Is it because they were used to playing video games, maybe, when they were kids? I have two little girls, for example, 6 and 8 years of age, and since they were 3, they are playing with a PlayStation, the Wii, or whatever. That is the first contact point with technology.
No sé si decir algo más fuerte. O sea, ya no es intentar, es que tenemos que tener la obligación de eliminar las.
We have the duty to do away with labels. A woman, a person, because she likes new technology, she's not weird. She's not different from another woman who likes playing with dolls. She's not a freaky or introvert. She's not an isolated person. We have to do away with labels of what is female or male. And we are in the 21st century, and we are still handling many labels, and we have to continue working jointly, as it has been mentioned, to gain more trust in the digital world. And I think that is all from me. Well, this is what we were talking about. This has already been mentioned. PPP, it is necessary. We are in a changing environment. It is said that companies are more agile, but we have to be pieces of a puzzle where all the pieces are necessary to make up the whole puzzle. And just 2 reflections, conclusions. There is not just one pathway, there is not one single norm towards success. And we have to do away with the psychosocial labels. People have to become expert in technology. We need to know what they feel, what they do, when they are acknowledged, and they play the role they have started to play. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.
Gracias, Esther. Silvia.
Hola. Hola, pues nada, yo quería también.
Well, I also like to thank INCIBE And I'm also very happy to be here today at the capital city of cybersecurity. As the mayor said this morning, I'm quite privileged to be here in León today, taking part in this forum. I liked the conclusions, and the title I've given to my presentation is the digital transformation towards 50-50 planet by 2030. I think this equality is going to be achieved because either we are stubborn or we believe in what we do, or we must believe in what we do at least. We can see the difference as time goes by. We know that Italy and other countries are behaving better than Spain, but we can also recognize that some changes are being brought about. So I've prepared some slides that I want to share with you. I will start by saying what the United Nations, especially the ECLAC, said in 2013. They say that in 2013, I repeat, there was a digital gender divide in the Caribbean and Latin American countries. And they also say that through the ICTs, we can open more opportunities for the empowering of women and gender equality. So they recognize there is no clear equality between men and women in these countries, in Latin America and the Caribbean, but that some steps are being taken. In 2015, the General Assembly of the United Nations passed an agenda, adopted the agenda for 2030 to transform the world towards sustainable development. And the aim is to have, well, the fifth objective out of the 17 objectives is to try and match or to try and achieve gender equality and to empower men and women. Objective 5B talks about the use of technology. So at least we are now taking some more steps, and we try to keep on progressing. So with that objective, with that written objective, we try to get economic independence for women. I think that's critical, that's necessary, because women need to have that independence and to live their lives as they want. I know that Concha will talk about the conclusions later, so I will move on to another thing. In 2017, the Ministry for Health of Spain, in a press note published in March this year, said that we have to keep on fighting against the discrimination against women. The United Nations has created a commission entitled the Legal and Social Commission for Women that keeps talking about economic empowerment. The government says that they are creating a tool for self-diagnosis of the salary divide and the gender divide for the assessment of job positions. So they are trying to to control the situation through little steps and little measures, because they say that they cannot enforce it with force. They can just recommend objectives. There is a motto that says, more women, better companies. So at least we start recognizing that more women are needed in the businesses. So we have programs for the promotion of feminine talent, awareness-raising programs belong to this framework. I also want to say that the European Parliament established another objective. You can see it here. It's a name or a recommendation, but not an obligation. It's not compulsory. They don't want to impose sanctions. It's just with the setting up of objectives, not obligations. So let's make noise, and what a better way to make noise than the first International Forum on Gender and Cybersecurity. So let's make more noise and let's take a bigger piece of the cake. So in 2017, the expected quota is to have 40% of women in managing positions, because they say that if women had more access to leadership positions, to the management positions, in order to be able to express their opinions, the productivity of businesses could be improved by 18%. I recognize that we've been listening to percentages the whole day, but this one I think is important. Improving the productivity of a company by 18% is something that we need to remember. This is found in a survey by Womenalia with 1,227 professional women. In Spain, women represent 45% of the labor market. And out of these 45% of the labor market, only 11% of them are in managing positions. Only 11%. So let's see what happens in the future. Maybe in the coming forum, this percentage will increase. And the last figure, equality, gender equality in the managing positions will enable countries or Europe to increase the national income product by 27% in the next 7 years. So 20% of the GDP would increase with the inclusion of more women. So what is doing the private sector? Training, mentoring, networking. I know that all companies within the private sector, there are many foundations that are trying not to discriminate and support. There are many initiatives. And this is fine, but what I can say is that we need to raise the awareness with a positive attitude. We need the ability to do everything from a positive point of view by creating best practices without coercions, without obligations. If we can coerce a little bit, that would be fine too. Imposing some rules would be fine. I don't think it would be bad. And now this is the list of reference where I've taken this information from. And finally, let me see if I can show it to you. Yes, a woman with opportunities has its success or its outcome, their outcome guarantee. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Buenas tardes. Tengo ahora agotado mi español. Gracias, Google Translate. My name is Cynthia Wright. I am a cybersecurity engineer with a company called MITRE in the United States. It sounds like MITRE in Spanish, so that's what you'll see when you read the biography. Our company provides scientific, technical, and policy advice to governments, and that advice is chartered to be specifically in the public interest. So I was very honored to be invited by INCIBE to come here and participate in Spain in such an important event that is so clearly in the public interest. So thank you for inviting me. Before I came to this company, before I came to MITRE, I spent 24 years in the United States military. I'm not going to talk about the obstacles because we've had a lot of obstacles today. I'm going to focus more on some of the things that have changed. When I did go into the military in 1990, it was composed of only 10% women. When I left 24 years later, in 2014, as an Air Force colonel in cybersecurity, it was still less than 23%. So things change, but they don't change a lot in all that time. I am also a mom. I have 2 teenage boys at home, and we've got 2 out in the world already, expecting a first granddaughter, so that's finally a girl in the family. When I started to think about public-private partnerships with regard to cybersecurity, I wanted to look at my own experience. Where I work today, in my job today, we are helping organizations and sometimes countries identify how they can advance and secure their priorities in cyberspace. And I do that with several different organizations through several different teams. And each one of those teams is mostly women. And that has not been my professional experience prior to this company, and I don't think it's the professional experience of most women in technology. And so I wondered, what is the difference between where I am now and where most women in technology are? In Silicon Valley, here's another percentage, only 17% of the technical workforce is women in Silicon Valley, and very, very few of those are in any kind of position of leadership. And so I'm in a tech company. Silicon Valley are tech companies. What is the difference? And when I started to think about that, the conclusion I came to is that it lies somewhere in that commitment to public service, the partnership between government and industry to solve real problems. Because although some women find technology intimidating, when technology is applied to real problems that they care about, women are there, and they are engaged, and they want to be a part of that. So in looking at how public-private partnerships can play in this, I think that their role is that they can create those connections. Public-private partnerships create the connections between technologies and social problems or social issues that can engage girls, that can get them interested. And they don't have to be huge problems. They just have to be problems that girls care about. One example, in the United States, and I think most of my examples are United States, they are hackathons, and I know in Spain you're also doing hackathons to try and engage young people in cybersecurity. This is a particular hackathon last year between sponsored by the United States entertainment industry, television, and they were trying to find software that would help people engage better with their televisions, like we need that. But an organization called Girls Who Code, a nonprofit organization called Girls Who Code, sponsored the winning entry. And she was a 17-year-old girl, the only minor in this competition that was otherwise comprised entirely of adult men in the entertainment and cybersecurity industries. And she won with 10 hours of her time and 150 lines of code because there was a problem she cared about. She didn't like that her Twitter contacts were always spoiling her favorite shows before she got to watch them. So she invented this piece of code that would block Twitter feeds that referenced her shows until she got to watch them on TiVo. And when she was watching them on TiVo, it would put the comments back into her feed in the order that they had been sent in the original when the show was originally aired. And she called it Tweevo, Twitter plus TiVo. And she won this hackathon for the entertainment industry in the United States. And the problem she was trying to solve wasn't a big social problem, but she cared about it. And it got her involved. And because she got involved, many, many girls now have the video, the picture in their minds of this young woman, this 17-year-old girl, walking across the stage carrying one of those big checks for $2,000 for her winnings. So although the problem was maybe trivial, her experience was not trivial for other girls because it showed them what they could do. The US consulate in Bangalore in India sponsored a hackathon, which was also won by an all-girls team. Their code was meant to help detect human trafficking. The Google hackathon last year was also won by an all-female team. That team was sponsored by a group called Cyber Garage, which is a nonprofit focused on helping not just girls, but helping ensure that technology is used to solve community problems. So there are lots of areas in which nonprofit and public organizations can connect with industry-sponsored or government-sponsored events to try and create a better environment for girls. And hackathons isn't the only answer. Has anyone heard of Elsa and Anna? Elsa and Anna is an online collaboration between the Khan Academy, which is an online school, and a group called Code.org. They provide 1-hour daily lessons with animated Disney princesses, Elsa and Anna from the Disney movie Frozen, who walk girls through different coding exercises to try and get them interested in creating simple programs that will make it less intimidating for them in the future. So I think there are many opportunities to inspire young girls in schools. But I think that public-private partnerships have a role beyond just inspiring schoolgirls. They also have a role in creating a better environment, a better work environment in technology for adult women, for people who are contributing to the economy today. And there's a few ways that I think they can do that. One is by helping to identify and write and promote laws and policies that make the technology environment more acceptable to women, more friendly to women, like equal pay or maternity leave, those kinds of things that are of particular interest to women. And then, at least as importantly, they need to hold those companies accountable. And public-private partnerships and civic organizations have an ability to do that the women sometimes don't. They can hold these companies accountable in the media and in the courts to sticking with what they have said that they would do in law and policy, and not just paying a fine and writing it off as easier. Right? Public-private partnerships can help develop curriculum for schools and universities and go beyond that, not just teaching that curriculum that connects technology and computer science to problems girls care about, whatever those may be, but then providing the support for those girls who want to solve those problems. To your point, Cristina, it's not pie. When you give more support to girls, you're not taking it away from boys. And it's important to help educators and the community to understand that we can give more support to those people who are culturally disadvantaged in any particular area without depriving other people of the support that they're currently getting. And then finally, public-private partnerships can help establish internships and mentoring programs for women in the workforce to help those women, once they get in there, to navigate some of the challenges of being in the public workforce. And I think one important point to make about mentoring is that we want more female mentors. We want more female-run internship programs. But where that's not possible, or even when it is possible, we want men to mentor women. Men should want to mentor women. Men should want to see women succeed in these technology companies because, as several people have said today, there are numerous studies demonstrating that when women are involved in large numbers in companies, those companies do better in any industry, and tech is no exception. So it's in the best interest of the entire society to promote women in tech. This isn't a women's issue. It isn't even a tech issue. This is a global economic issue, getting women involved in technology. And so, once again, I'm really excited to be a part of this forum that's trying to make such a difference in such an important area. So, gracias.
Okay, so it is the last panel, but also the last speaker. So in 1 minute, I will have to summarize all my presentation. I'm going to try to give it a kind of a flexible nature to the very last presentation. The message, and I have to confess that I have modified it slightly. Thank you so much to the INCIBE for the kind invitation, Alberto, to be here this evening. And my presentation, I think that with one slide, I can stick to one slide and that's it. Because the message I'd like to convey is let's take advantage of this opportunity and the events that are occurring. The past is full of women, our present is full of women, but what we want is that the future is full of many more women. My presentation, well, I would have changed it, also apart from showing you the precursors of the female cybersecurity women leaders. I could have shown you pictures of Mar Lopez, Soledad Romero, Soledad, the girl who this morning engineer as well. The engineer who gave this talk this morning, because we studied at the same university. We need more visibility. We have all the programs, we have all the figures. Throughout today, we have been bombarded with figures, and all the figures point at the same fact. Tomorrow more, even. This world needs women. It is a multidisciplinary world. We had talked about the presence of women in engineering. Sole, in her talk, has said it is everybody's mission. We can talk about public sector, we can talk about private sector, we can talk about the global sector. We all have a role to play. We were talking about equality. It's not equality. No. The inequality, or the person who is on unequal conditions should have the equal conditions. Cybersecurity is something that when we started to study at universities, we knew nothing about cybersecurity. We knew there was an Apple language or something similar, but when we started to study, we knew nothing about this. So let's talk about films, because we all know about the latest film addressing hidden profiles. Sex symbol, hacker women, comics, cartoons, and you will see that women are everywhere. They are ubiquitous, like always in history. Without the need of governments, without the need of any support, they have organized themselves to be there, taking the baton. However, the names that have come up throughout the history have been men, unfortunately. So I'm going to introduce to you the precursors of cybersecurity, 19th century, Ada Lovelace, who was the first programmer and mother of computing programming. 19th century, they were multidisciplinary as well, the scholars, the few scholars we had. She was a poet and also programmer. She was working with Baggett, the precursor inventor of computers, and she put the basis of the first program, and then United States gave her name to one of the first programming languages. We also have We are now in the 19th. We now go to the 19th century still. We have the pioneer of automation of parallel tasks, concurrent programming, etc., etc. What is being done today in programming? We have Francis there, who was awarded with the Turing Prize. We have Murray, known as the Amazing Grace. If there is any computing expert here in the room, she was a precursor of COBOL, creator of cyberpunk, creator and advocate of cyber rights, Graham. She was a hacker as well, and she was the one who who saw the potential of the social media, internet, and the revolution 4.0 we are facing today came from her. She said women need more modems, not more men, because at that time what used to give us access to internet were the modems, and she used to say women need more modems. And she encouraged us to get rid of our concerns and fears. We do not have to be divine. We do not have to be perfect, no? And a man to come out to the fore, to speak out loud with a 30% of security on his thoughts, he moves on. However, women, according to this same survey, seems that we need a 70% of self-esteem. So we need to be almost perfect to say, here we are. Now we have to do it in our own measurement. Miham, therefore, she was very successful because she was a precursor and the first hacker and the creator of cyberpunk. All the cartoons we have on cybersecurity, she was the precursor. Last century woman. Then we also have Berthin Avelin. This woman invented the first office computer. She created the first system to book flights. You see the chaos that happened some weeks ago at the British company because of the hacking. And what she did was to try to make easier the work of the secretary, no? A woman. And then you have Lynn Conway, pioneer in the field of design. She was working for Xerox in Palo Alto in USA. Computing experts also know USLA. When she manifested that she was transsexual, she was fired. She went through the transformation period and she continued working for other companies, but she was born man. We have a sex symbol, the actress Harry Damar. She was the precursor of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS. What we are developing, and thanks to it, we are interconnected. And she had time for everything. I recommend you to study a little bit more the life of these persons because their lives were not easy. With one of the collaborators, they wanted to develop a system, a communication system that was not intercepted, the communication by submarines. And what about the first computer where the great number of operations can be done within seconds? The inventors were not the fathers of internet, for example, or the two engineers that built it. In fact, we had 6 mathematicians, the 6 female mathematicians, that while men were involved in their own struggle, they were hired to do some calculations to see how projectiles could hit the target. Here we have the 6 women. However, they have never come out to the fore. They are hardly known. And I refer to the film we are all talking about, of hidden profiles, the black women, they call them. So gender comes hand by hand with breed. I have not watched the film yet, but I'm going to watch it. We have to give us more visibility. We are women worldwide. In Spain, we have many references. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Somebody said before, if you do not measure, it seems that it's not there. We need indicators. Indicators in cybersecurity. All of those working in security. Security is not seeing. Work that is well done is not seen, because if there is good security, you do not see it. You need to take advantage of one Wright, Soledad, that works for the government of the United States. We have all those kind of events every day, but you do not see them. And I just want to summarize. I had many more slides.
Cifras, con esto también yo.
I had more figures, more tables. I also want to talk about age. I am a bit mature, let's say. I have experienced and felt in my flesh the figures we are mentioning. In computational systems, there was a peak in the 80s. I started my degree in the 80s, and I can tell you that there were more men than women. Then there was a decrease. We have to analyze why these things happen. Well, because in the 80s, the first personal computers came about with games specialized for children, and therefore interest in computational systems went down. And now you can see that this is in crescendo, so we have to take advantage of this situation. These are all the figures I wanted to share with you. I'm sorry I have no time to focus on that. 11% of women who are in management positions. One of the conclusions, we will need 1.8 million of experts by 2020. Let's take advantage of this demand. But not only in the field of technologies. This is the example with Mar López, one of the high representatives of DGL. And she's not a technological expert. However, she has adapted herself to the new situation. She has translating within seconds and in a language the superiors, managers understand. And the message I'd like to convey to you this evening, many things have been said today about quarters, the controversy on positive discrimination. My proposal and my sentence, well, I love the sentences and the statements by Silvia. It has to be a positive statement. We have to make ourselves visible. Do you want to participate? No. We have to participate. We have to break the ice. We have past, present, and future. We have 3 centuries, 19th century, 20th century, 21st century. Next year, I hope INCIBE organizes the 2nd International Forum on Gender and Cybersecurity. In one of the presentations, we should have people like Mar, Sole, some of the girls I feel identified with, and I started to study in the 80s. That I started to study again after having family, and to my surprise, there were fewer girls at university. From 20 in the classroom, we were only 2. So we're going to continue learning many more aspects. My message is, let's take advantage of this opportunity. Mar mentioned as well, and I agree with her, that we have to re-educate ourselves and we have to reconvert our competencies and skills. I studied sciences, computing engineering, but to manage cybersecurity, I had to learn everything about the legislation, frameworks, human resources, all the disciplines. Let's go and watch that film. I recommend it to you. Let's read the stories of our ancestors. We have to live the future, but without forgetting the past. And we have good references in the past. In American conquest, the women have always been in the shade behind men, unfortunately. Why isn't there a census of the women that went there? There is only a census of the male conquerors. Why? Well, because there was not a census for women. Well, we have to get things changed. We have a great opportunity ahead of us, and we have to take advantage of it. That is my very last message. And I hope that for next year, Luis, you set up challenges to work on. And next year we review the objectives fulfilled, or not so much fulfilled, but that will be a good way to identify the advances. And congratulations, because in short time, look at the great number of women here in our working group that we have as well. There is a high number of women, and there is a movement, there is a female movement. One of my slides, I have even changed some of them, because there are studies that were published not a long time ago where you can see a peak in the working groups. They said in Norway there are policies, you can see an increase. Cynthia was also mentioning what they are doing in USA. Let's take advantage of this positive movement. Let's not stick to we need more room. No, let's take advantage of the room we have. But we have to demonstrate, we have to make ourselves visible. It is a challenge, as Mar said, of course, but we have to take the responsibility. If you do not want to make headway, okay, up to you. That has to be respected. But those of us who want to move forward, and I tell you, because I am 52 years of age, it has been hard for me to go through training. I have made headway. I did not want to get stagnated, regardless of all the efforts invested. A lot has been said about opportunities, life and work balance. Those are all common terms, but now let's go into action. Action is what we need. Let's make it our time frame, and that future 2022 that so many cybersecurity jobs will be. Let's hope that many more women come to take those jobs. With this, we conclude the panel. Thank you very much to INCIBE for this great international forum and for this panel focused on the PPP that makes possible the visibility of such professionals. And I hope that we all continue having inspiration by these women. Thank you so much to you all.